everyone, and welcome to our project demonstration for our TapIn MMA site. As you can see here, it immediately places us in front of a screen with the terms and service of our application. I'll read the notice for you guys just so we're clear. TapIn MMA provides fight statistics, odds information, and experimental predictions for entertainment and educational purposes only. Nothing in this app is financial, betting, or gambling advice. And so assuming that you agree with the terms, which I'm going to agree with, you can enter the site and use all of our features. This is purely a legal disclaimer, guys. Had to add it in. All right. So here immediately we get to see the fight comparison tab, where you can compare fighters across various different weight classes in the UFC. There you first select the weight class, then you select the first fighter, the second fighter, and then there is a fighter stats drop down and a fight record comparison chart. So let's use this feature from scratch, right? Let's pick a very popular weight class right now, 170 pounds. Immediately you can see that it displays the champion and the number one ranked fighter at the time of this demo video being recorded. So let's pick some fighters. Let's pick some popular fighters. Let's pick Ian Machado Gary, super popular right now. Let's pick him. He just recently got a win over Bilal Muhammad. And for the second fighter, let's pick another young up-and-coming guy who got a great win recently against Sean Brady, Michael Morales. Awesome. So now that we have these two fighters pulled up, we can drop down the fighter stats menu and we can see their records, their weight class, their height, their reach, their fighting style, and the gym that they train at, right? This is all done via Octagon API. So that's how this was integrated. And the drop down here is fueled by Plotly, right? So we added this, so it's a nice little visualization. For these two fighters, there's not a ton of differences between them, besides the fact that Ian Machado Gary has lost before and Michael hasn't. They have almost the same amount of fights, but in a lot of fighters, like for example, if I were to compare these guys to someone like Islam Makhachev, who has 10 more fights, you'd see that there's a huge difference in experience between the two fighters. So that's why we thought it would be important to allow a visualization for people using our site. So let's move on from this feature. All right, so now moving on from the fighter comparisons tab, we reach the upcoming events tab, which is fueled by the unofficial topology API, right? So in this tab, you can select a region and it will display the fights in that region. Currently, we have Florida selected. You can see the events in Florida, from the Premier Fight League to the Combat Quest, the Leo Code Live MMA. You can see their dates. So December 6th, there's a Premier Fight League event, and you can see the main event is yet to be determined. We don't know the weight class, and we can see the location here, Hialeah, Florida. And there is a map here for visualization purposes where you can see the locations of each of these four events, right? And let's select a different region here so you can see that this is fully functional. That's California. It'll fetch the upcoming events, and you can see all the events in California right here. I won't bore you guys with the details, but you can see that this works. And then here you go. You can see a visual of where all the events are located in California. And this is done with Nominatum. Then right here, this is an interesting feature. So here you can subscribe to our newsletter and we will notify you of major events, like for example the upcoming UFC 323, Tuvalishvili versus Peter Yan 2. So let's type our email into here. Just the official TapIn MMA notifications email. And once we do this and we hit the subscribe button, we should be subscribed. There we go. We've been added to the notifications list. Awesome. So now we'll be notified of any events. Moving on from this tab, we reach the betting info tab, right? So here in the betting info tab, I should preface that we've managed to make this work via the odds API, right? For betting odds. Odds API is a very interesting API because they display all betting odds across all different betting platforms for fights, right? In this case, we're using it specifically for MMA fights, but you can see here that it even displays potential matchups, right? So, for example, you can see all the Alex Pereira matchups here. And these are fights that have yet to happen, but it's very interesting that you can see these matchups, right? And you can see the current betting lines. So let's pick Alex Pereira versus John Jones. This is a fight that John Jones has asked for multiple times. Here you can see the odds. So only one betting book allows you to place any bets on this currently, or has betting odds on their site. In this case, it's betonline.ag. You can see the odds, and you can see the implied probability and the last update time for said odds, right? So for a lot of fights, you'll get multiple options, multiple books, and the books will have different odds displayed. So it's nice to see for the user so that they can get an idea of what betting book they'd like to place their bet on, and also what the other books are saying the odds should be for this fight, right? Again, this is not financial advice, but this is a very useful tool for observing the betting odds for various matchups. Moving on from this tab, we get to our pride and joy, the fight predictor. So this is an interesting feature, right? Because this is our own proprietary algorithm developed specifically for predicting fights, right? And we do this through a multitude of ways. Initially, we created a prototype and we've tested the prototype, and we added features. It essentially looks at the fighter statistics, and from there makes an estimate of who would win based off of said statistics. So without further ado, let's get into how this works. So let's pick a weight class here. This time, I think we'll pick featherweight. So it defaults to the champion and the number 1 ranked fighter in the weight class. But let's not look at Max Holloway. Let's look at an upcoming matchup, Diego Lopez, Alexander Volkanovski 2. This is a matchup that got announced recently. And let's predict the winner. Let's hit predict winner. And we can see here that it gives Alexander Volkanovski a 53% chance. It predicted Alexander Volkanovski with a confidence of 53%, right? And this makes sense because Alexander Volkanovski did win the first matchup. So if I had used this in the previous fight and he gave me the same prediction, then I'd be correct and I would have made some money. So this is the official TapIn pick. It picked Alexander Volkanovski, right? Now within this tab, we have achieved an accuracy of around 85% through all of our testing. Of course, this can vary and it can change in the future because fighting styles change. Sometimes the fighters in a weight class can be very wrestling dependent or striking dependent, and this can mess up our algorithm. So, take this with a grain of salt. This is not betting advice, like we've said in the disclaimer. But for now, it works very well for us. And moving on from there, we get settings, right? So here in settings, you can change the app color, you can select the theme, and for the admin, you can log in. And we added this feature specifically for the newsletter. You'll see here, I'll log in a moment. After we log in, we're able to send emails via our newsletter. All right, so quickly, let's just select a theme. I like Octagon Red the most out of all the themes. We decided to add themes and an app color because during our usability testing, we were told that the black background for a lot of people made it a little harder to see, especially when I showed it to older people like my parents, for example. So we added an option to change both the background and the theme. So I like Octagon Red. Let's change it to Octagon Red. And let me use my password here to log in. Let me log in as admin. Awesome. Should be in now. Let me go to the upcoming events tab. You can see here Octagon Red looks nice. All right. So here, automatically it selects all the highlights from this region, pre-selects them. So we can see here that I can immediately hit send to all users. The previous user's email is still here. They can unsubscribe if they want to using the unsubscribe feature. But for now that we are in the admin section, let's send this to all users, right? You can see it has just a summary of all the fights in the California region, like all of them. So let's send a digest to all subscribers and then check the email. Send digest. Awesome. Now, although it says sent and failed, it really isn't. If you go to your email, you can then see, once I refresh here, that boom, we received an email. TapIn MMA upcoming fights digest highlights. Right here, you can see every fight. Awesome. So going back into the app, we can log out as an admin. And that concludes our demonstration of our project. Thank you for watching.